evening, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us tonight. Whether you caught us live or are watching the replay, my name is Melody McAllister, and I host a weekly book chat on my Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube channels almost every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern. My book chat started during the pandemic. It was a way to feel connected to others, especially my author friends, as my children's book had recently just been published. Tonight's guest, Tara Martin, was on my chat when it first began. Only then, I had not read her two books, Be Real, Educate from the Heart, or Cannonball In. She sent me the book shortly thereafter. Cannonball In has become one of our family's favorite children's books. When school started back up a few weeks ago, my little redhead chose Cannonball In to start the school day. I couldn't think of a more perfect story for her. It's a wonderful book to help start discussions about facing challenges in life, navigating through fear, and told in a way that resonates with our youngest learners. Now that I've read Be Real as well, the connection of what Tara shares with educators and how we can share the message with young people is even more powerful. In fact, reading Be Real was an emotional journey. It's a great reminder that no matter the content we are teaching, it's always, always, always about who we are teaching that really matters. And to those that we want to reach in the deepest and sincerest ways, we must hold back our judgment and be vulnerable as much as we hope for those around us to be, which isn't easy. I love the strategies that Tara shared to help grow connections. And while I was reading, our first book chat came back to me in different bits and pieces. I find myself wanting to know more about Tara as a person and a writer. So for those tuning in, I hope you will check out both of her books, and I'll be dropping the links as we talk. Tara, it's been an honor for you to come back on again. How are you doing? And can you catch me back up since we last spoke?
Yeah, for sure, Melody. I am so excited to join you again on this book chat. It has been a bit, and I love seeing the pictures of your little redhead reading this book. The cutest thing ever. And when I was little, there weren't a lot of books with redheads in them, and I was always like wishing the main character would have red hair, and so yeah,
That really means a lot to her. Honestly,
it does. Like you feel like included, like, hey,
Mhm.
I'm in that book. So yeah. So the last time I saw you was ISTE this summer.
Yes.
I hope to see you again next week. Right?
Yes, can't wait.
Yes, super excited about that. I remember, so since ISTE, first of all, we had that awesome walk up to ISTE. Remember that? With the slow
Yes.
move in? That was awesome. So much fun has happened since then. So I am like professionally been able to get back out into the school systems, the districts. That has been so exciting. This morning I spent time with seventh graders and their college prep students at a little program here in Topeka, Kansas. It was just so fun to listen to them. We talked about Cannonball In. They all got a book, and we talked a lot about their goals in seventh grade and how they're transferring into their big life goals. And they had some big, huge goals that I'm so excited to hear students and be able to see their faces again, unmasked, and sharing their passions, their interests, and how their teachers are actually tying their passions and interests into the curriculum. It's been such a joy to be out there working with districts and teachers and students all over again, and not just virtual, but actually real life, and getting to smile and hug them and all the things. So
Yes.
that's been fun for me. I personally have been training for a half marathon. So
wow.
Yeah, I'm not usually a runner. I do love me some CrossFit, but running is typically not my jam. So that's been fun for me to like change my mindset and grow an appreciation for another sport. And not next Sunday, not the Sunday, but next Sunday, I will run that race. And I'm really excited about it wasn't even on my bucket list. So I can't even say checking it off my bucket list. That wasn't even on there, but just trying something new.
That's amazing. And you share a lot about like your athletic, the different athletic things that you've been involved in since you were younger in your book. So I had no idea, but it's really cool. And I love watching everything that you put on your social media. I'm always like, yes, girl power. Like you're amazing. I'm always cheering you on because I think everything you do is so amazing. And I absolutely love how dedicated you are to your craft, and you just, becoming your best self is amazing to watch. And so I appreciate that. Oh, we have some comments coming in. Oh, I love. Hey, Dawn. Yes, it's good to see you too. Thank you guys so much for joining in. Really appreciate it. This is going to be such a great discussion tonight. My first question, Tara, is, and I just wanted to say too that Tara and I are connected in some freakishly weird ways. Some I won't mention, but like we're both Chiefs Kingdom, and I just want to put that out there. I meant to put that in my intro, but I gotta say that.
For sure.
Okay, just gotta throw that out there. But Tara, so I think your book just turned 4. Be Real just did. Okay. And I want to know, since writing it, how has this changed your life?
Yes. So Be Real was such a hard book to like put out into the world, and you've read it. So you understand Dave is in the house. So
yes,
Dave can testify to this. Yes, Dave's going to be reading that half with me. So I'm excited about
so
that.
Cool.
When I wrote Be Real, it really did change me. At first I thought maybe I just wrote it for me. Maybe I just needed that for some like healing and just to realize all the growth that's happened because of my abusive childhood. Like because of that, I was able to come out with these new levels of empathy that has really helped serve me as an educator, as a human, as a friend. And so after I wrote it, I told Dave, and he wrote the foreword. So if you read the book, you could just read his foreword and you'll get to hear this kind of a similar story. But I told him, I don't know what this looks like for DBC Inc., but is there any way to like back out of the contract now that it's written? Because I don't think I actually want to put it out into the world. I think I just like kind of want to keep it for myself. And he talks about it in the foreword of just convincing me to slay that dragon of fear. And a lot of times when we have such great fear like that, then there's probably something really great that can come out of this, sending it out into an authentic audience. And that is exactly what's happened. Maybe the book isn't, a #1 bestseller of all Amazon books, and I didn't expect that. But what has blown me away is all the stories of all the educators who have come to me and said, I was able to relate to this piece, a part of your book. Maybe their own life mirrored something that I had gone through, or they had a student who seemed like a little T, or something even worse. Even like my students went through way worse things than I ever went through even. And so I can see that, like as a teacher, maybe reading that and be like, wow, I had never thought about it in that way, from that perspective. And that really gives me a whole new light of why their behaviors are the way that they are. And so I feel like Be Real has changed me in so many ways, and it's helped me to realize that it's really okay to share those parts and pieces of your life that really promote growth, because it is the dark, vulnerable pieces sometimes that helps others to see you can come out on top. You can move forward, and you can take what you've learned from that traumatic situation and use it for good. And I think putting it out there really helped me to understand that. And the more I talk about it and travel around the world, actually, the US for sure, it's so nice to have people relate and say, what, that really helped me, or that showed me how to relate to the student a little bit better.
And I love that. And actually, the more that I read, I was like, wow, you really are sharing like very deep parts of you. And I know that it was foreign to you. You even put that, like, you don't want for so long, you just kept that very silent. And so I can only imagine, just as a writer, like putting yourself out there is like being naked in front of everybody, but then sharing even more of it. Yeah. And I think something that you hit upon in your writing is just, what we do when we reach our students in that social emotional way isn't always natural for all educators. And you even shared it, how like when you were coaching your coaches, how when they were trying to reach students and they couldn't, and you're like, well, hey, what about just as a person? You've done all these strategies, we have all this data and it's not working. Have you just talked to them as a person? And I think that we forget sometimes, those of us who are really entrenched with this, the relationships are first, but not everybody still operates like that. It's not natural for everyone. So I loved that you shared that. And I can only imagine the reach that you have. And that kind of takes me to my next question. So since your book, your reach and your influence have grown, has it made it more challenging to stay real?
Yeah. So I thought this is I think this is a great question. I I feel like I'm pretty real. I mean, for the most part, I feel like when people meet me, they're like, whoa, what you see is what you get. It's as if she just jumped out of the computer, and that's like the same thing. And you've met me in person, so you might be able to testify to that.
I testify to it.
Yeah, I'm pretty real. But, you know, I had someone ask me this question in one of those really rapid fire question things. You know how you get
Yes.
a podcast and you're just like, oh gosh, I hope I answered this correctly. And I just like, and the question was, where are you the most, where are you most authentically yourself? And I wanted to say, like, speaking to educators, speaking to students, but I think even then, you know, if you think about most authentically yourself, like completely real, like everything exposed, you know, I could only think of one space where I could do that, you know, just completely exposed. And that's when I'm writing. That's what I'm writing. And that's when I'm writing in my journal. And so as my reach has grown, I do feel like I stay very true to who I am and I stay really real. But as your reach grows, of course, you gather more followers and
Yes.
more fans, but you also gather more haters. And so it gets really hard to navigate that sometimes and to really just stay real and just keep it cool, be relatable, expose a little vulnerability, stay approachable because that's hard
Right.
to do when you're dealing with haters, and also use the things that are coming, the darts that are coming at you, as something that you can learn from. Maybe it's how to handle that. Maybe it's how to communicate with those people. Maybe it is how to help other educators or students be able to deal with some similar situations. So as my reach has grown, it has been more challenging to stay real because of that. I feel like the conflict is a little bit more like you have to just, you kind of still want to stay relatable. You still want to stay exposed to vulnerability. You don't really want to be mean back. You don't want to fire
Right.
back. And
I
so,
do.
yeah, I want to.
I
But
struggle with that.
that's where those walls come up too. Like, when can you be? Well, then I just go to my journal and write all the things I wish I could say.
I
Um,
say them.
but yes, I do think it's helped me to become, like, to share my realness with more people. And
Mhm.
I do think at times that it is more challenging because you have such a bigger audience with so many more perspectives that you have to keep in mind.
Right. And you talk about this in your book as well. And when you're doing new things and you're growing and people are like, "Hey, that's not in your brand." Do you feel that pressure that everything that you do has to stay in that brand, or are you like excited about new things? I didn't
Oh,
prep you with this. I'm sorry, but it just came up.
you're good. No, I feel like, so one lucky thing about my brand is it fits anything. Like, right? Because being real, I mean, you can go anywhere with that. You can,
Mhm.
like, and that's why I don't feel bad to share my journey, my fitness journey. I don't, you know, people are like, oh, that doesn't really fit her education brand, but it fits her as a real human, you know, and
Right.
my brand is being real. So the coolest part about my brand, and I feel like it definitely fits me, is when I do it, it becomes real.
Right.
So it's kind of nice because anything can fit there. But if you're talking about educationally, which I'm sure that was the original purpose of the question, yeah, there are some times where, you know, some things have to bend a little bit. But even still, no matter if I'm talking about data, no matter if I'm talking about a rigid curriculum piece, or like, no matter if I'm collaborating with someone who's really working toward XYZ that's very scripted, very rigid, if you will, there's still ways to integrate realness in the midst of it. And I feel like when we do that, we make those connections with students. So I honestly feel like, Melody, I know this is probably not the normal answer people would give, but I feel like pretty much anything can fit in the brand of being real.
I like that. Like, I feel seen because I feel the same way. Like, there's just so much of us that are just developing. And if we can't model that for our students, where are they going to see that, or for our own kids, you know?
And
Um,
it's really
it,
lessons, right? Everything is a
yeah.
real lesson. So when I'm doing fitness, like, say whatever it is that I'm training for this half marathon, I had a bad attitude about it. really one. I really had attitude about it for a long time. I hated running, and I let everybody know that I hated running. And um, and I slowly developed a love for it. And I realized that running is more like a meditational kind of sport. It's different than CrossFit. CrossFit, I go and I feel like a baddie, right? I'm excited about it. It's pumped up. The music's loud, and I'm thinking, and I'm lifting weights, and I'm doing gymnastics. But running, it's quiet. I don't listen to music. And I might listen to audiobook, or I might listen to nothing. And it's meditational. And once you figure out the form and it doesn't hurt your body, it feels really good when you get done. And I've developed this new appreciation for it. So when I was talking to students, every time I talk to them, I try to remind myself that, this every experience that we have, for example, that it's easy for me to throw out that story and let them know that I changed my mindset and I developed a new skill that I can take with me and I can use when I'm at a hotel that doesn't have a weight room. I can just go run.
Right.
I can still work out and still feel good. And there's so many things in life where we need to share our experiences with our learners because there's real lessons underneath it that are lifetime lessons that they will take and use forever.
Yes. And Don says, Tara, your energy is so contagious. And I always feel so empowered when you share your fitness journey. I do too, Don. I do too. And Tara, I feel the same way. Like on my Instagram, you're going to find more of my makeup stuff than any educational stuff, but it's all there. It's like, we're whole people. Why not share it? And that makes me want to just tell you, like, especially when we talk about like what you're going to say to students, like you could, this stuff in here, and we talked about this before the show, like I could see 3 or 4 books coming out of this going deeper, but I would love for you just to write a book, a memoir. I think it would resonate with like young people and old people, everybody. So yes, Dave says, who would have thought running could capture Tara? Yes,
No one at
you
my
do both. It's awesome. And do it for some of us that will never do it.
You might. I always tell people, don't, like, I used to be that person. I said it all the time. I sprinted. I love sprint workouts, but I hated distance running. And now I'm like, man, I was really missing out.
Yeah, well, I'm so glad that you found happiness in running. And my next question, otherwise, what would you include? Maybe you're not going to, make a memoir. But I would support you if you did. What would you put in a sequel to be real?
Yeah. So a sequel to Be Real, that's a great question. I feel like I put like as much as I feel like I put so much of me in that book, and it's so fat. If you haven't read it,
it is
got some thick pages. I promise the writing is really big though.
it is.
And we have like sketch notes in here by Carrie Bauckham, which you should totally check those out. But a sequel to Be Real, I don't know if I'd write a sequel per se, but if I were to revise Be Real and add more things to it, I might would add just some more life lessons and how they've helped to shape me, and also just a little more reminders for teachers to grab all of those life lessons that they have and model those for their students. So if they're starting to share their writing authentically, like making sure to overtly say that in the book too. Share that the kids love it, and they love seeing us try really hard and maybe not make it whatever it is that we're trying to make. Sharing that with them and letting them know. I think I would just emphasize that a little bit more. And another thing that I would probably do in Be Real that I didn't think I did enough of, is really share more of the Be Real strategies, discussion strategies that I teach in my workshop all the time, but I didn't necessarily put them in the book. And I've developed so many more in the last 5 years. So it's be fun to like add those in. Of course, is work ever done? Like you would always, every time you get more stuff, you would probably just want to write another one, add some more stuff.
It's true.
I just have them all on my website.
I know. I feel that way as well. I love, again, I'm going back to this whole people thing because I completely agree with you. And I feel like as I grow older, and I'm glad to grow older, by the way, I just feel like, and you also put this in your book, what our students and what our children see is really what they remember. How we made them feel is so much more important than maybe even the content, and actually what stays with them and what they learn from. And so I absolutely love that. And when we are writing as we, like you said, if we're blogging or writing, they're going to want to do that. Even my own kids, they're just like, you read all the time, and they got to see me read this book all week long, and I'm just like into it. And like, I want my kids to be real, so it was all good. It was modeling. But I just think that's what our kids, that's what really resonates with them. Yes. Oh my gosh. Yes. We will be at Teach Better next week, Dave. Is Dave going to be there?
Yes.
Awesome.
We will have a booth there.
Oh my gosh. That's right. I didn't know if it was going to be you. I will also be at a booth, not a book booth, but I will be there. Don says, Tara's book is the real deal. I love it so much. So many great stories inside that we can all relate to. Yes. Yes, she does give us new perspectives. Thank you guys so much. I love this. I love it so much. I forgot my next question, but I do, as much as I absolutely like, this was emotional for me. And I told you before we went live, like I cried several times. I mean, I just said it resonated so much, but I also love Cannonball in. And I just wanted you to share, like, and I told you earlier today that I never thought of it about like just how you say cannonball in, but there are times when our expertise and our experience lead us to want to share, and we have that moment. Do we do it or do we not? And now I'm thinking about, this is my cannonball moment. And I even had one of those this morning. But what wisdom would you like to share about the cannonball in?
For Cannonball in, I feel like there's so many great lessons, and Cannonball in is all about taking risk. It's about a little girl who wanted to cannonball in. She wanted to jump on the diving board, but she didn't just want to dive. She really wanted to make cannonballs. And she was a great swimmer in the shallow end, but she got really nervous when it came to swimming in the deep. And her dad tried to encourage her, like, you know how to swim. You can, if you could swim here, you can swim there. And I think as adults, there's so many times that our own fear stops us. Like that was just my own fear stopping me, even though I had the foundational skill to do the thing, to jump and to swim, and I wasn't going to die, but I couldn't get it in my head. This is based on a true story, by the way. I couldn't get it in my head that I could do it over there. And I think that's how we are as educators. We tried it. We want to take these risks. We want to try something new. We're like training for the half marathon. That's like personal, but I want to try something new, right? I kind of did, and I kind of did it, but I was like, I need to cannonball in. I need to do what I say I do, right? I need to do what I tell other kids to do. And I did, and I developed, not only did I have a foundation of fitness to help me along the way, I already had that. I knew how to swim, if you will. So then it was just learning these little pieces, these little small pieces. And that's exactly what happens when you start cannonballing, you start doing things, you start taking risk and moving water, you get better at it, and it gets a little bit easier, and you try again the next time. And maybe this time you're going to do a flip and a cannonball. Like maybe the next time you take it a little step further. And when we model that for our students, or we encourage our students to do the same, we are really just, if you would, we're kind of collectively getting all these people together to make this big, huge splash and make waves, if you will, right, in the world. And that is when change happens. That's when things start to move and shake. And that's when the world starts to think, oh my goodness, like these kids, they are fearless. They are ready to do great things. And that's what Cannonball In is really all about. And it goes back to be real. You have to be vulnerable. You have to be authentic. You have to know that you have some confidence in some of your skills, and you have to trust those and put it out there and try something new. And not only at Cannonball In, she had to face some dabblers. She had to face some girls that were just sitting on the sidelines looking pretty, and they weren't even jumping. But they definitely criticized her. And we talked about the haters earlier. They're everywhere. And I deal with them daily. And so right, they're everywhere. And I think that we need to teach our students, we need to remind them, there's a lot of things that are going to come at you, trying to stop you from reaching your goals. But it's up to you to decide, you know what, I'm determined enough. And I know enough. I know that I can do this. So I can do this. And right, you just have to chase your own dreams, and you have to win anyway, no matter what other people say. You win anyway. You just keep doing it. And that's really what Cannonball In is all about. Just reminding people that we have a purpose in this life, and it's not just to sit around and watch everybody
Yeah.
else make good
You,
jobs.
when you wrote about Cannonball and Be Real, that was my hi honey. That was actually my favorite part in the book. And so much so, I will tell you, I put it into practice this morning at a crucial time. I was almost like, um, I don't want to go, I don't want to TMI everybody, but I was almost like going to give into my fear. And in the moment that I needed to, I just pushed through and I literally said, just cannonball it. And I just did it. Like literally, it was crazy. It was so wonderful. And I feel like this was probably a divine thing to read your book this week. It really did help me. And so, you are actually okay with reading. You're going to read some of this wonderful book. Your favorite part. If you had to choose, is it a terrible question? Did one of these like bring you more like I hate to say is one of your favorite. I know it's like asking if you have favorite kids, but I'm just curious. Like, did one of them bring you more joy?
I will say, when I go and speak, Cannonball Inn always sells out first. B Reels always typically sells out. I mean, I rarely do I have to bring books home, but Cannonball Inn, the baby, she wins most days.
Well, I believe it. And I love what Dave said because it is a wonderful message for all ages. And every time I read it with Elizabeth, especially Elizabeth, because she's my little redhead and she loves this book, I always get goosebumps. So I'm so glad that you're going to read a little bit of it for us tonight.
Okay, awesome. Well, I'm going to read my favorite pages. This is like 2 pages, well, 3. But I'm going to show you the dabblers because I want you to see them. And Genesis Kohler was my illustrator. Amazing. But look at these girls. They are just something. They look beautiful. They're sitting on the sidelines. But the thing about them is they're not wet. They're not even jumping. And so how did I even know if they could jump? Right.
Right.
And so I just wanted to read kind of the last 4 pages of the book. Honey also loves this book.
Do you want me to show it while you read it?
Oh, it's fine.
Okay.
Do this a lot.
Okay. Wow. Look at you. You are really good.
You can if you want, though. We can have it on both screens. So once the little girl came over to her dad, she was very upset, Olivia. She felt so proud for her Cannonball. And then the dabblers just criticized her to no end. And so you can tell she's super disappointed. But her dad said, listen to me, he said adamantly. The dabblers are not even jumping. They have dry hair. They're not even wet. Their opinion of jumpers does not matter. Besides, what do they know about jumping if they're not in the water, Olivia? You cannonballed in. You pushed fear and doubt behind you. You swam. You did that, Olivia. You were not born to sit on the sidelines and watch others make a splash. You were born to jump. Olivia's courage began to swell up inside. As her father spoke, she gave him a squeezy hug and said, thanks, Dad. As she headed back to the diving board, a couple of kids swam to the edge of the pool and called up to her, hey, that was the best cannonball ever. We saw it from here, the little girl said. Olivia couldn't believe her ears and thought, my ripples, the best cannonball ever? For real? I wish I could jump like that, but I'm too scared. I can't touch the bottom over there, chimed the little boy. But you can both swim, Olivia asked. Like fish in the sea, the little girl replied. Olivia grinned and said, take my hand. I'll go with you. Today is the day. Let's cannonball in. As Olivia's dad watched his daughter lead the kids hand in hand toward the diving board, he beamed from within and whispered proudly, now that is what you were born to do. And I think that's what all of us were born to do. Whether you're an educator or not, you are influencing someone. There is always somebody watching. There's always someone who is looking at you and they're like, whoa, if they did that, maybe I could try that. Or you encouraging them and pulling them along and saying, you know what, sometimes we're going to belly bust and it won't be the best splash and it might hurt a little, but we are still making waves. We are still doing something and learning from our experiences. So I hope that we have a world of cannonballers. I hope we make a collective cannonball across the world and really just build up our courage in the learners, but also in ourselves to, like you said this morning, just do the thing. You know what you can do. Just do it. Face that fear and do it.
That's right. I mean, just in the moment, it's like if you give way to fear, you just stop yourself. If you give way to courage and just the moment that you need it, you just can't focus on the fear. And that's exactly what I did this morning. I appreciate you so much. I appreciate your message. I appreciate the metaphors in this book. And guys, if you don't have this, I've dropped a lot of links. I hope you will get it. It's great for your classroom, it's great for your home. And also, if you just want to dive more into Tara's message, I love this. I will be giving it a 5-star review. And I think I just want to say, if you find somebody's book and you love it, give them a review. That's like the nicest compliment that you could do for an author. Tara, thank you so much for coming on my show. I want to say thanks to Rochelle and Dawn and Dave and anybody else. There was a Facebook user, I didn't see their name. Thank you so much for joining in. And for those who tune in on the replay, we appreciate you so much. I'll be back next week as well. And we will see you at Teach Better Conference in Ohio next week. I'm so excited about that. Is there any more wisdom you'd like to share before we say goodnight?
Well, Melody, I just wanted to thank you again for having me on the show. Anytime I have the honor to share my message with anyone or any of my experiences with others, it's just always such a blessing. And I never take that for granted. So thank you so much for having me. And thanks for all who joined in tonight. I hope if you check it out, you will definitely let me know your thinking, good, bad, or ugly. I take all of it. And I love to hear feedback. All of us authors do. And as Melody said, it's always just nice to hear from the readers. We love to hear what you're thinking. And so I appreciate having me here and sharing my messages.
It's been an honor, Tara, and I can't wait to see you and give you a hug for real. All right, everybody, good night, and we'll see you again.